Now, Laurent Burstick is with us. He's joining us for a look at today's papers. Let's start with India there, where weekend protests against this controversial citizenship law have been taking place. What are you hearing?
Well, as you said, it's a very controversial law which was passed by Parliament last Wednesday and which aims to grant citizenship to millions of immigrants in India, provided they're not Muslim. Now, of course, this sparked a lot of outrage in the Muslim community and mass protests across India, and especially in Assam state, where The Guardian says 4 people were killed by police on Sunday. Now, the protests have spread to other regions, and looking at the Indian press, we can see on the front page of Indian daily The Hindu that West Bengal is also being affected. According to the paper, protesters there attacked trains and buses, despite calls by organizers for the movement to remain peaceful. And many were quoted as saying they're not going to be deterred by police violence and will continue the protests. Looking now at the Time of India's front page, we also see that the protests, the violence has also spread to the capital, New Delhi. It's Delhi's turn, and this includes clashes around a Muslim university in which some 35 people were injured. Now, according to the paper, neither the Modi government nor the protesters are showing many signs of backing down.
OK, well, let's move on now to Lebanon, where, as we've been covering this morning, violence between protesters and security forces has flared up over the weekend. What are you seeing as the reaction to those events?
Well, they're being talked into even in the neighboring United Arab Emirates. They're actually made the front page of The National, and which describes a night of violence as police attacked protesters in Beirut. Now, this is a version of events that's being contested a little bit in some of the Lebanese press. We see L'Orient Le Jour, who's asking the question, who wants to disfigure the revolution? Asking who is behind this flare-up in violence. And it actually published an opinion piece looking at the change of the movement and at what happened exactly. They had journalists on the ground saying some people started throwing rocks at police, which is what sparked the clashes. And there are theories that maybe there's a political will behind it to sort of discourage or intimidate protesters, especially as consultations are about to begin on the formation of a new government. And some protesters are actually saying that this was done on purpose to announce, it's a prelude to announcing the return of Saad Hariri. That's an information that we also see in the Daily Star, a Lebanese newspaper, and that's being talked a lot about in the last few days. The Prime Minister Saad Hariri, who resigned because of the protests, could return as Prime Minister, and that could be a reason for this flare-up.
OK, well, it's another story making the headlines, the COP25 summit, which ended yesterday in Madrid. A lot of disappointment around the outcome. What are the papers saying about it?
Well, it was a much anticipated summit coming at a moment where there's a renewed sense of urgency around the climate crisis, and while many newspapers are left frustrated and disappointed at this missed opportunity. We see here El País, a Spanish daily, saying the conference ended without achieving its main objective, without any tangible agreements. Same verdict for La Vanguardia, another Spanish daily, which headlines on this disappointment of failing to agree to any commitments in this conference. And for El Periódico, another Spanish daily, this timid agreement amounts to a planetary disappointment, a global disappointment. And it's not just the Spanish press. We can see also The Economist publishing an article on the COP25 saying that the conference ended in failure, in a sad splutter here, and that, well, talks failed to produce any real tangible action.
OK, well, let's end then with a word on Harvey Weinstein, who just gave his first interview in more than a year.
Well, that's right. And the disgraced Hollywood producer apparently agreed to that interview only to show journalists that he had real health problems. The interview took place just after surgery, and he refused to speak about any of the allegations against him. However, he still managed to spark even more controversy as he apparently tried to defend his record on gender parity and saying he deserves a pat on the back when it comes to women. Now, the article, which was published in Page 6, it's belonging to the same group as the New York Post, quotes Weinstein as saying that he's done more for women professionally than anyone in history, and deploring the fact that his legacy is almost feminist legacy, if you if you follow his trail of thought, has been tarnished by all these accusations of sexual misconduct. Now, the producer didn't show remorse in this interview, but his interview did prompt a response by 23 of his accusers, who say they refuse to let this predator rewrite his legacy of abuse. And they reassure him that he will not be forgotten. He will be remembered, but as a sexual predator.
I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more reaction to that interview as well. Laurent, thank you very much indeed. Now, in today's focus, the spotlight on China's re-education camps aimed at brainwashing the Muslim minority Uyghurs. Well, we meet some Uyghurs living in Paris, but they can't escape China's grip and are facing threats to their families back home. That report coming up in the next 15 minutes.